After the funeral, the house fell silent. It was a heavy, suffocating silence that clung to the walls and settled in the empty spaces. Every room still smelled like Daniel. His favorite denim jacket was still hanging on the hook by the front door. His coffee mug, the one with the chipped rim, waited patiently on the kitchen counter as if he'd be back any minute to fill it. At 32, Clara was a widow. The car accident hadn't just taken her husband. It had taken everything else, too. The mountain of medical bills devoured their savings, the nest egg they had so carefully built. Then the bank took the house, the home they had painted and filled with laughter. Friends, well-meaning but lost for words, slowly drifted away, leaving Clara in an ocean of awkward condolences and then just emptiness. She packed what was left of her life into 3 cardboard boxes and moved into a tiny apartment. The walls were paper-thin, the single light fixture in the living room flickered erratically, and the city hummed a constant lonely tune outside her window. At night, she'd drag a comforter onto the floor. The bed was a ghost, a landscape of memories too painful to navigate. It reminded her too much of him, of his warmth, of the way he'd pull her close in his sleep. So she chose the hard, cold floor. She worked 2 jobs, a waitress by day and a cleaner by night, moving through the world like a shadow. She learned to smile when customers were rude, to nod when her boss gave instructions. The real Clara only came out in the shower, where the sound of the water could drown out her sobs, washing her tears down the drain with the grime of the day. Some days she'd work from dawn until long after dusk and realize she hadn't eaten a single thing. Some days she'd stare at her reflection and wonder why she was still breathing when he wasn't. The guilt was a constant companion, a heavy anchor she dragged behind her. It was a life lived in grayscale, devoid of color or joy. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, the city bus shuddered to a halt. A collective groan went through the passengers. The engine had given out. Everyone complained, pulling out their phones, sighing about being late. Everyone, that is, except the man sitting across from her. He was just looking out the window, a small, calm smile on his face as he watched the rain streak down the glass. When the driver finally announced they'd all have to get off and wait for the next one, Clara stepped out into the downpour, completely unprepared. And then a voice next to her said, "Looks like we're swimming home." It was him. He held out a large, black umbrella. "Care to share?" he asked, his eyes kind. His name was Ethan. He didn't press for her story, and she didn't offer it. They walked a few blocks together under the shared shelter, the rhythm of the rain a gentle percussion to their quiet conversation. They didn't exchange numbers. They didn't make plans or promises. But as she turned to walk toward her apartment building, she realized she had laughed. A real, genuine laugh, without the immediate sting of guilt that usually followed. For the first time in 2 years, a tiny crack of light had pierced her darkness. The next week, she saw him again, at the same bus stop, at the same time. It wasn't planned. It was just life. It happened again the week after, and the week after that. Their meetings became a quiet routine, a small, dependable point of light in her week. They talked about small things, the kind of things you talk about when you're not trying to impress anyone. They discussed the changing weather, the books they were reading, the merits of the terrible coffee at the corner deli. He never asked about her past, never prodded at the sadness that he must have seen in her eyes, and she was grateful for it. She never offered the stories that were locked away inside her. One night, sitting on a park bench as the city lights began to glow, her walls finally crumbled. Maybe it was the way he listened, without judgment, without trying to offer solutions. The words just came spilling out. She told him everything. About Daniel, about their life together, about the awful, deafening silence that followed his death. She told him about losing the house, about the shame of packing her life into boxes. She told him about the exhaustion, about waking up every single morning tired of this simple act of breathing. Ethan didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer empty platitudes like, "It will be okay," or "He's in a better place." He just stayed. He sat there with her in the quiet, a silent witness to her pain. He didn't try to fill the silence. He just shared it with her. And in that shared silence, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, seen. Love didn't arrive like a bolt of lightning, dramatic and sudden. It crept in slowly, quietly, like sunlight filtering through a dirty window pane. It was a gradual warming, a slow brightening of the room she had kept dark for so long. It was real. With Ethan, Clara learned something profound, something that would fundamentally change her relationship with her own grief. She learned that loving again did not mean she was loving Daniel any less. Her heart wasn't a finite space. It could expand. It could hold both the profound grief for the love she had lost and the gentle, growing affection for the love she was finding. Years later, Clara stood in a new kitchen. It wasn't a big kitchen, not like the one in the house she'd shared with Daniel, but it was warm. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the happy green leaves of the plants she had lined up on the sill. Soft music played from a small speaker on the counter. Across the room, Ethan was washing dishes, humming along to the tune. She, in a moment of distraction, had burned the dinner. And as the smell of smoke filled the air, they didn't get frustrated. They just looked at each other and laughed. A full, easy, shared laugh that filled the small, warm space. She still missed Daniel. She knew she always would. He was a part of her story, a chapter she would reread with love for the rest of her life. But the grief no longer owned her. It was a passenger now, not the driver. It didn't dictate her future. She had lost everything once. She had hit the absolute bottom, convinced there was no way back up. And yet, here she was. She had built a new life from the ashes of the old one, a life worth staying for. A good life. Thank you for watching.